Introduction: The Roadmap to Zero. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. The sun is just starting to peek through your blinds. You roll over, grab your phone, and instinctively open your banking app. But instead of that familiar knot forming in your stomach, the one that anticipates seeing a negative number or a terrifyingly low balance, you feel calm. You tap on your loan provider's icon, the screen loads, and there it is. Your student loan balance is exactly zero. No more monthly payments draining your paycheck before you even see it. No more feeling guilty about buying a latte because you should be saving. No more wondering if you'll ever be able to afford a house or a wedding or just a life that feels like your own. Today, we stop imagining that scenario. Today, we start building the roadmap to make that your absolute reality. Welcome to the Student Loan Escape Plan. I'm glad you're here, but I'm even happier that you've decided you're done. Done with the stress, done with the limitations, and done with carrying the heavy backpack of university debt that has been weighing you down since graduation day. If you were listening to this, you likely fall into one of two categories. Maybe you're a fresh graduate, staring at a six-figure balance that feels like a clerical error. You're looking at your entry-level salary and doing the math, realizing that if you pay the minimums, you'll be debt-free just in time to retire. Or maybe you've been paying on your loans for years. You've sent them thousands of dollars, and yet when you look at the principal balance, it's barely moved. It feels like you're running on a treadmill that's slightly inclined, sweating, working hard, but staying in the exact same place. I want you to know something right now before we talk about interest rates or refinancing or side hustles. You are not bad with money because you have student loans. You are not a failure because you bought into a system that told you education was the golden ticket, only to find out the price of admission was your financial freedom in your 20s and 30s. But here is the hard truth that we need to accept to move forward. No one is coming to save you. There is no magic wand, and waiting for legislation to wipe the slate clean is a strategy based on hope, not math. If you want out, you have to dig your way out. The good news? I'm handing you the shovel. Over the next few hours, we're going to dismantle the myths that keep you paralyzed. The biggest one? The belief that having student loans is just normal. We've been conditioned to believe that debt is just a part of life, like taxes or traffic. You'll hear people say, everyone has student loans, it's good debt. Let me tell you, there is nothing good about owing money that prevents you from building wealth. When your monthly income is spoken for before it even hits your checking account, you aren't free. You're an indentured servant to a lender who views you as nothing more than a guaranteed revenue stream. We are going to change that dynamic. This audiobook isn't just a collection of tips, it is a declaration of war on your debt. So, how are we going to do this? This book is structured as a strategic campaign. We aren't just throwing money at the wall and hoping it sticks. We are using a proven step-by-step methodology designed to eliminate your university debt fast. We start with the assessment. You can't defeat an enemy you can't see. In the first few chapters, we're going to strip away the denial. We're going to face the numbers, as scary as they might be. We're going to look at exactly what you owe, what the interest is costing you daily, and we're going to get angry. That anger is useful. It's fuel. Then we move into the strategy. We'll debate the mathematical efficiency of the Avalanche method versus the psychological momentum of the Snowball method. I'm not just going to tell you which one is better, I'm going to help you decide which one works for your brain. Because the best debt payoff plan isn't the one that looks best on a spreadsheet, it's the one you actually stick to on a Friday night when you want to order takeout. From there, we discuss the arsenal. This is where we increase the power of your shovel. We'll talk about refinancing hacks that can save you thousands in interest with a single phone call. We'll navigate the complex, often confusing world of federal forgiveness programs to ensure that you are not paying a dime more than the law requires. We'll talk about side hustles, career leverage, and weaponizing windfalls. This is about offense. Defense, cutting coupons and skipping avocado toast, is important, but you can't save your way out of massive debt. You have to earn your way out too. Finally, we cover the transition. What happens when you send that final payment? How do you ensure you never slide back into the borrowing trap? We'll pivot from debt destruction to wealth creation, showing you how to take that massive monthly payment you used to send to the bank and redirect it into your own future. The psychological weight. Before we get to the tactics, I want you to pause and recognize the psychological toll this debt takes. It's a low-level hum of anxiety in the back of your mind. It influences where you live, what job you take, and when you start a family. I remember when I was deep in the hole. I felt stuck. I turned down opportunities because I couldn't afford the risk. I stayed in a job I hated because the paycheck was safe. Debt makes you fragile. It makes you risk-averse. It steals your confidence. When you execute the plan in this book, you aren't just improving your credit score, you are reclaiming your mental bandwidth. Imagine the creativity, the energy, and the joy you will have when you aren't worried about the 15th of the month. This journey won't be easy. I'm not going to lie to you and say you can pay off $50,000 in a year without sacrifice. You're going to have to say no to things you want right now so you can say yes to everything you want later. You might have to drive an old car. You might have to miss a vacation. You might have to work on weekends for a season. But here is the promise. It is worth it. The feeling of freedom you get on the other side is better than any luxury car or tropical trip you could charge to a credit card. So, here is my question to you. Are you ready to do what it takes? This isn't a passive experience. You can't just listen to this audiobook while you do the dishes and hope the information transfers into your bank account by osmosis. You need to take action. Throughout this book, I'm going to give you specific challenges. I'm going to ask you to log into accounts, make phone calls, and sell things. I want you to treat this as a workshop. When I tell you to pause and do the work, do the work. If you're driving, obviously keep your eyes on the road, but make a mental note to do the task as soon as you stop. If you're at home, I want you to be ready to pause the audio frequently. We are about to embark on a journey that will change your family tree. When you kill this debt, you stop the cycle. You become the person in your family who changed the narrative from "we always owe money" to "we build wealth." Take a deep breath. Release the guilt you've been holding about your past financial decisions. They are in the past. They don't matter anymore. All that matters is what you do starting right now. Before we dive into the strategy in Chapter 1, I want you to do two things. First, hit the follow or subscribe button on your audio app. You're going to need to come back to this content, and you're going to want to commit to this journey. Second, grab a pen and paper or open a fresh note on your phone. You're going to need it immediately. You've imagined the destination, waking up with zero balance. Now, let's start walking. Ready? Let's get to work.
Chapter 1. The Naked Truth, Facing the Numbers. Let's be honest for a second. When was the last time you actually logged into all of your student loan accounts? Not just the one that sends you an email every month, but all of them. If you're like most people, the answer is probably a long time ago or never. There is a phenomenon in psychology called the ostrich effect. It's exactly what it sounds like. When we perceive a threat, specifically a financial threat, we bury our heads in the sand. We think that if we don't look at the balance, it doesn't exist. If we don't open the envelope, the bill isn't real. We automate the minimum payment, ignore the statements, and just hope that it all works out eventually. But deep down, you know the truth. You know that ignorance isn't bliss. Ignorance is interest. Every day you refuse to look at your debt, it grows. It mutates. It gets stronger while you look the other way. So, in this first chapter, we are going to do the hardest thing you will do in this entire process. We are going to take your head out of the sand. We are going to turn on the lights in the basement and see exactly what monsters are hiding down there. It's time to face the numbers. The Great Excavation. The first step is what I call the Great Excavation. One of the trickiest parts of the student loan system, especially if you've been out of school for a few years, is that loans move. They get sold. Servicers change names. You might have taken out a loan with Sally Mae in 2015, and now it's owned by a company you've never heard of with a generic name like Navient or Aidvantage. You might have federal loans, private loans, and maybe a Perkins loan floating around from that one semester you forgot about. Your mission right now is to locate every single cent you owe. If you have federal loans in the United States, you need to log into the Federal Student Aid website. That is the source of truth. It will list every federal grant and loan you've ever received. But that's only half the battle. If you took out private loans, you need to check your credit report. Go to a free credit monitoring site or pull your official report. Look for accounts listed as closed or transferred. Those are the tricky ones. Follow the paper trail until you find who currently holds the note. Do not assume you know what you owe. I've worked with people who thought they owed $30,000 only to do this exercise and find a lost loan for $12,000 that was in default because the bills were going to their parents' old address. You need to find everything. Logins, passwords, account numbers. Get them all in front of you. Once you have access to every account, you're going to create what I call the debt dashboard. You don't need a fancy spreadsheet or expensive software for this. A simple notebook or a blank sheet of paper works perfectly. You're going to create 4 columns. In the first column, write the name of the loan, not just student loan, but be specific. Stafford subsidized, private Wells Fargo, Grad Plus. In the second column, write the total payoff balance. Note that I said payoff balance, not current balance. Sometimes there's a little accrued interest that makes the payoff number slightly higher. For today, just getting the current balance is fine, but we want the big number. In the third column, and this is crucial, write the interest rate. We need to know exactly how expensive this money is. And in the fourth column, write the minimum monthly payment. Now, I want you to look at that list. For many of you, this will be the first time you've seen it all in one place. It might look like a disorganized mess. You might have 8, 10, or 12 different rows. That is normal. But now I need you to do the math. Add up that second column. What is the total? $40,000? $80,000? $150,000? Sit with that number. Don't run from it. That number is not a judgment of your character. It is simply a math problem, and math problems have solutions. Now that we have the big number, I want to teach you a concept that businesses use but few individuals understand. It's called your burn rate. Usually we look at debt as a monthly problem. I have to pay $400 a month. But that's not accurate. Interest doesn't sleep. It doesn't take weekends off. It accumulates every day. We are going to calculate exactly how much money your debt costs you every time the sun rises. Here is the rough formula. Take your total debt number, multiply it by your average interest rate percentage, and divide by 365. Let's use an example. Say you owe $50,000 at an average of 6% interest. $50,000 times 0.06 is $3,000. That's $3,000 a year just in interest. Divide that by 365 days. That comes out to about $8.21. That means every morning you wake up, you are $8.21 poorer than you were when you went to sleep. You pay $8.21 just for the privilege of existing with this debt. That's a fancy coffee and a bagel. Gone. Every single day. Why am I telling you this? Is it to depress you? No. It's to radicalize you. When you view debt as a monthly problem, it's annoying. When you view it as a daily fire that is burning up your hard-earned money, it becomes an emergency. You need to feel the heat of that fire. You need to realize that every day you delay, every day you wait to get serious, the bank is reaching into your pocket and taking that money. This is the naked truth. There are no filters here, no income-based repayment plans hiding the reality, no deferments masking the growth. This is you versus the math. It feels heavy, right? Good. That weight you're feeling is the motivation you need to push through the next 15 chapters. If it didn't scare you, you wouldn't change. Comfort is the enemy of progress. And right now, looking at that dashboard, you are definitely not comfortable. So here is what needs to happen next. We are going to stop letting this number control us, and we are going to start attacking it. But you can't attack what you haven't defined. Here is your first instruction. I want you to pause this audio right now. Log into your portals. Create your dashboard. Do the math. Write down your total balance number and circle it in red ink. Do not hit play on Chapter 2 until you know exactly where you stand. Pause now. I'll be waiting.
Chapter 2. The Mindset of War. Now that you've faced the numbers, you might be feeling a mix of emotions. Panic? Absolutely. Regret? Probably. A little bit of nausea? That's normal. But I need you to take those emotions and channel them into something specific. I need you to get angry. See, society tells us that student loans are a pet. They're just this little annoying thing that follows us around. We feed the pet once a month with a minimum payment, we take it for walks, and we just assume it's going to live with us forever. We treat debt like a roommate we don't particularly like, but have learned to live with. That ends today. Your debt is not a pet. It is a parasite. It is an intruder in your home that is eating your food and stealing your future. You don't negotiate with a parasite. You don't manage an intruder. You declare war. This chapter is about the psychological shift you need to make before the math will ever work. We call this the mindset of war. The minimum payment trap. To understand why we need a war mindset, you have to understand the enemy's strategy. The banks, the federal government, the private lenders, they have a weapon, and it's called the minimum monthly payment. Most people think the minimum payment is the amount calculated to get them out of debt. It is not. The minimum payment is mathematically designed to keep you in debt for as long as possible without you defaulting. It is the perfect amount to keep the lender profitable and you trapped. When you pay only the minimum, the vast majority of that money goes straight to the burn rate we calculated in the last chapter, the interest. Only a tiny sliver actually chips away at the principal. I want you to picture a bathtub. The water is your debt. The faucet is running, that's the interest, adding more water every day. The drain is your payment. The minimum payment is like opening the drain just enough so the water level stays exactly the same. You feel like you're doing something because you're standing there watching the water swirl, but the tub never empties. If you treat this casually, if you just pay what they ask you to pay, you will be paying these loans until your children are in college. That isn't a scare tactic, that is the amortization schedule. To beat the system, you have to break the rules. You have to reject the minimums and attack the principle. The cost of your past. Let's talk about what this war is really about. It's not just about money.
It's about opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is an economic term that basically means if you spend $1 on one thing, you can't spend it on something else. Right now, your student loan payment is robbing your future self. Let's say you pay $400 a month toward your loans. That isn't just $400 leaving your account. That is $400 you couldn't invest. If you took that same $400 and invested it in a decent mutual fund for 30 years, do you know what that turns into? Depending on the market, that could be over $500,000. So when you send that payment to the loan servicer, don't just see the $400. See the $500,000 of retirement wealth you are setting on fire. See the vacations you aren't taking. See the house down payment you aren't saving. When you visualize what the debt is actually costing you, your freedom, your options, your peace of mind, it becomes impossible to be passive. You stop thinking, I guess I'll pay this off eventually, and you start thinking, I need to get this thing off my back immediately. Gazelle intensity. This brings us to the core strategy of our war. In the personal finance world, there is a concept often called gazelle intensity. Imagine a nature documentary. You're on the African savanna. You see a cheetah, the fastest land animal, crouching in the grass, and you see a gazelle grazing nearby. When the cheetah attacks, what does the gazelle do? Does it jog? Does it say, well, I'll run for a bit, but I don't want to get too sweaty? Does it say, I'll escape on the weekends, but right now I want to relax? No. The gazelle runs for its life. It cuts, it sprints, it jumps. It has a singular focus: survival. It doesn't care what the other gazelles think. It doesn't care if it looks silly. It runs until it is safe. You need to become the gazelle. To get out of this mess fast, you can't live a normal life for a while. You can't go to every happy hour. You can't lease a new car because you deserve it. You can't buy new clothes just because they're on sale. You are in a financial emergency. The cheetah is chasing you. This level of intensity is temporary. That's the key. I'm not asking you to live like a monk forever. I'm asking you to live like a crazy person for 2 years so you can live like a king for the rest of your life. This is the mindset of war. It means we stop making excuses. We stop saying, I don't make enough money, or it's not fair. It might not be fair, but it is your reality. It means we become aggressive. We look for every loose dollar in the couch cushions. We work extra hours. We sell things we don't need. We become obsessed with watching that balance go down. Your vision of peace. Before we move to the next chapter and start cutting your budget to pieces, I want you to find your why. Intensity is hard to maintain without a vision. If you're just running away from pain, you'll eventually get tired. You need to be running towards something. I want you to do a quick mental exercise with me. Keep your eyes open, stay alert, but let your mind wander for a second. Imagine it's the 1st of next month. You get your paycheck. You pay your rent or mortgage. You buy groceries. You pay the electric bill. And then you stop. Because there are no other payments. No student loan transfer. No credit card bill. You have that $500 or $800 or $1,200 sitting in your account. It's yours. You can save it, give it away, or spend it on something you actually love. How does that feel? Does your chest feel lighter? Do you feel a sense of power? That feeling is called freedom, and it is worth fighting for. So here is my challenge to you right now. Ask yourself, if you had absolutely no debt payments next month, what would you do with that money? Would you travel? Would you start a business? Would you help your parents retire? Visualize that goal. Make it high definition in your mind. Because when the war gets hard, and it will get hard, you are going to need that picture to keep you moving. Hold that image in your head. Now let's go find the money to make it happen.
Chapter 3. The Surplus Hunter. We have established the target, zero debt. We have established the mindset, war. Now we need the ammunition. In a war, you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have bullets, you lose. In the war against student loans, your bullets are dollars. Specifically, the dollars left over after you pay for your basic survival. We call this the gap. It's the difference between what you earn and what you spend. The bigger the gap, the bigger the shovel you have to dig yourself out of the hole. Right now, you might be thinking, but I don't have a gap. I'm broke. That's why I'm listening to this audiobook. I hear you, but I'm willing to bet that if we looked closely at your financial life, we would find leaks. We're going to find money that is slipping through your fingers without you even realizing it. In this chapter, you are going to become the surplus hunter. We're going to strip your financial life down to the studs, find every loose dollar, and repurpose it for the mission. Giving every dollar a job. The primary tool for a surplus hunter is the zero-based budget. Now, don't tune out. I know the word budget sounds restrictive. It sounds like a diet. It sounds like I'm telling you that you can't have any fun. But a budget isn't about restriction. It's about permission. A budget is simply you telling your money what to do instead of wondering where it went. Here is how zero-based budgeting works. You take your monthly income right at the top of the page. Let's say you bring home $4,000 a month. You list your expenses, rent, food, gas, lights, until you get to zero. Every single dollar has a name. Every single dollar has a job. If you get to the end of your list and you have $200 left over, labeled miscellaneous or buffer, you are doing it wrong. That $200 needs a job, and for the foreseeable future, that job is destroy debt. When you do this, you stop drifting. You stop swiping your card and hoping for the best. You become the CEO of your own life. You realize that you actually do have money, it's just been mismanaged. Vampire expenses. Once you start listing your expenses, you're going to encounter what I call vampire expenses. These are the silent killers. They are the small recurring charges that suck the life out of your bank account while you sleep. They seem harmless on their own. It's only $12 a month, you say. It's only $7. But let's do the math. You have Spotify, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Amazon Prime, a gym membership you use twice a month, and a subscription box for premium dog treats. Individually, cheap. Together, that could be $150 or $200 a month. That's $2,400 a year. If someone walked up to you on the street and asked to steal $2,400 from your wallet, you'd call the police. But when it's a subscription service, we give them the keys to the vault. And it's not just subscriptions. It's habits. It's the convenience tax. It's getting lunch out because you didn't feel like packing a sandwich. It's the $5 latte. It's the upgraded data plan you don't use. As a surplus hunter, you need to be ruthless. You need to look at every line item on your bank statement and ask, is this essential for my survival, or is this just a comfort I've grown accustomed to? If it's not keeping you alive or helping you earn money, it is on the chopping block. Needs versus wants in the escape phase. This brings us to the hardest part of the hunt, distinguishing between needs and wants. We live in a culture that has completely blurred these lines. We think we need a smartphone with unlimited data. We think we need to live in a specific neighborhood. We think we need to go to that wedding in another state. But remember, we are in the escape phase. This is temporary. This is the war. During the escape phase, your needs are shelter, basic food, utilities, transportation to work, and basic clothing. Everything else, and I mean everything else, is a want. But I need to eat out to be social. No, that's a want. You can invite friends over for a potluck. But I need cable for sports. No, that's a want. Watch the highlights on YouTube. This sounds extreme because it is. Normal people don't do this. Normal people are also broke. Normal people have student loans for 20 years. You don't want to be normal, you want to be free. When you strip your budget down to these bare bones, you will be shocked at what you find. You might discover an extra $500, $800, or even $1,000 a month that was just being eaten up by lifestyle. That money is your freedom. That money is the difference between being debt-free in 3 years versus 10 years. Does it hurt to cut these things? Yes. Your ego will take a hit. You might feel a little deprived. But let me tell you what feels better than a premium streaming subscription. Sending a $2,000 payment to your student loan servicer and watching the balance plummet. That is a dopamine hit that Netflix can't compete with. The challenge. We are about to move on to the specific mathematical strategies of paying off debt. But those strategies only work if you have extra money to apply to the loans. So here is your mission before you start the next chapter. I want you to pick up your phone, open your bank statement or your credit card app, scroll through the last 30 days of transactions. Find one recurring subscription that you do not absolutely need to survive. Maybe it's a streaming service you rarely watch. Maybe it's an app you forgot about. Cancel it. Right now. Don't say I'll think about it. Don't say I'll do it later. Do it now. That $10 or $15 you just saved, that is your first victory. That is the first brick in the wall of your financial fortress. Prove to yourself that you are in control. Kill the vampire. Once you've done that, come back. We're going to take that money you just found and turn it into a weapon. Ready for Chapter 4?
Chapter 4. The Mathematical Weapon. The Avalanche Method. So you've done the hard work. You've faced the numbers, you've adopted a war mindset, and you've stripped your budget down to find that extra cash. You have the ammunition. Now, you need to know where to aim. In the world of debt repayment, there is a fierce debate between two main strategies. One appeals to your brain, and the other appeals to your heart. In this chapter, we are going to talk about the brain. We are going to talk about the strategy that is objectively, mathematically superior. It is called the Avalanche Method. If you are the type of person who loves spreadsheets, who hates inefficiency, and who wants to get out of debt paying the absolute least amount of money possible, this is your weapon. The logic of efficiency. Here is how the Avalanche works. It focuses entirely on one number, the interest rate. Think back to that burn rate we calculated in Chapter 1. Remember how we realized that your debt is costing you money every single day just to exist. Well, not all loans are burning at the same speed. Let's say you have 2 loans. Loan A is $10,000 at 3% interest. Loan B is $10,000 at 9% interest. Loan B is growing 3 times faster than Loan A. Loan B is the more dangerous enemy. It is the bigger fire. The Avalanche Method dictates that you should attack the loan with the highest interest rate first, regardless of the balance. It doesn't matter if that loan is $500 or $50,000. If it has the highest rate, it is the priority. Why? Because every dollar you pay off on a 9% loan saves you more money than a dollar paid off on a 3% loan. It's simple math. When you kill the high-interest debt first, you reduce the overall average interest rate of your portfolio. You slow down the burn rate faster. Over the course of a long repayment journey, the Avalanche Method can save you hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars in interest compared to other methods. It is the correct answer on a math test. So how do you actually do this? It requires a very specific setup. Go back to your debt dashboard. Look at that column with the interest rates. I want you to reorder your list. Put the loan with the absolute highest interest rate at the very top, then the second highest, then the third, all the way down to the lowest rate at the bottom. If you have credit card debt mixed in with your student loans, the credit cards will almost certainly be at the top because those rates are often punishingly, often 20% or more. Here is the strategy. You pay the minimum monthly payment on every single loan on the list. You must keep them all current. You never miss a payment. But that gap money, that extra surplus you found by canceling Netflix and eating rice and beans, you take every single penny of that extra money and you throw it at the loan at the top of the list, the one with the highest rate. You attack it with everything you have. You ignore the other loans, just keep them on life support with minimum payments. When that first loan is paid off, when it hits zero, you take the minimum payment you were making on it, plus all that extra surplus money, and you roll it into the next loan on the list. You create an avalanche of cash. As you move down the list, your payment gets bigger and bigger, crashing down on the lower interest loans until they are all wiped out. Now, I have to be honest with you. While the avalanche is mathematically perfect, it has a flaw. And the flaw isn't in the numbers. It's in the human brain. The problem with the avalanche is that it ignores the emotional need for a win. Let's say your highest interest loan is also your biggest balance. Let's say it's a $40,000 private loan at 12%. And let's say at the bottom of your list you have a small $2,000 loan at 4%. The avalanche says, attack the $40,000 loan. Ignore the small one. So you start paying. You throw $500 extra a month at that big beast. After 6 months, you've paid $3,000 extra, but the balance is still $37,000. It feels like you haven't done anything. You've been working your tail off for half a year, and you still have the same number of loans. You haven't crossed anything off the list. This is where people quit. They get discouraged. They feel like they're punching a brick wall. The math is working in the background, saving them money, but they can't feel the progress. If you're a robot, or if you're extremely disciplined, the avalanche is the best way to go. It is the fastest path out of debt in terms of time, and the cheapest in terms of total dollars paid. But we're not robots. We're emotional creatures who need dopamine. We need to feel like we're winning. That is why there is another method, a method that ignores the math and focuses entirely on behavior modification. It's less efficient, it costs a little bit more, but for many people it is the only way they actually finish the race. We're going to talk about that method, the snowball, in the next chapter. But before we go there, I want you to give the avalanche a fair shot. Look at your list from Chapter 1. Find the loan with the highest interest rate. Circle it. That is your enemy number 1. That is the loan that is stealing the most wealth from you right now. If you decide to go with the avalanche, you are deciding to be a cold, calculated machine. You are deciding that you care more about saving $2,000 over the life of the loan than you care about the quick thrill of crossing a small loan off the list. There is no wrong answer here, provided you actually pay the debt. But you need to pick a weapon. Are you going to use the sniper rifle of the avalanche, or are you going to use the sledgehammer of the snowball? Hold that thought. Let's look at the alternative. Ready for Chapter 5? Chapter 5, The Psychological Weapon, the Snowball Method. In the last chapter, we talked about the avalanche method, the strategy that makes the most sense on a calculator. But here is the problem. You don't live your life on a calculator. You live your life looking in the mirror, dealing with stress, and fighting the urge to quit. If personal finance were just about math, you wouldn't be in debt right now. You would have simply spent less than you earned, invested the difference, and been rich. We all know the math. The math is easy. The problem isn't the math. The problem is behavior. And that is where the debt snowball comes in. This is the strategy that ignores the interest rates completely. To a mathematician, that sounds like heresy. To a psychologist, it sounds like a breakthrough. Behavior beats math. Here is the premise of the snowball method. The most difficult part of getting out of debt isn't the interest rate, it's your motivation. If you lose steam after 3 months and stop paying extra, it doesn't matter that you picked the mathematically correct method. You failed. The snowball is designed to give you quick, early victories. It's designed to hack your brain's reward system. Think about it like a diet. If you go on a strict diet and exercise plan, and after 4 weeks the scale hasn't moved a single pound, what are you going to do? You're going to quit. You're going to say, this doesn't work, and you're going to eat a pizza. But if you lose 5 pounds in the first week, even if it's just water weight, you get excited. You think, wow, this is working. That excitement gives you the fuel to keep going for another week and another until the real results start to happen. We need that same water weight victory for your money. We need you to see a debt die fast. So how do we set up the snowball? Go back to your debt dashboard, forget the interest rates, pretend they don't exist. I want you to reorder your list based on the total balance from smallest to largest. The $500 credit card bill goes at the top. The $1,500 private student loan goes next. The $3,500 subsidized loan is third. The massive $40,000 consolidated loan goes at the very bottom. Here's the strategy. Just like the Avalanche, you pay the minimum payments on everything to keep the banks happy. But now you take that extra surplus, your gap, and you attack the smallest balance with a vengeance. Let's say your smallest debt is $800. If you can scrape together an extra $400 a month, that debt is gone in 2 months. 2 months! Imagine getting a letter in the mail that says, paid in full. Imagine logging into that account and seeing zeros. Imagine taking that row on your spreadsheet and deleting it forever. That feeling? That is pure dopamine. That is a win. And when you get a win, you feel powerful. You stop feeling like a victim of your debt and start feeling like a predator. This is why it's called the snowball. When you pay off that first small debt, you take the minimum payment you were making on it, let's say it was $50, plus the extra $400 you found, and now you have $450 to throw at the second smallest debt. When that one is gone, maybe you free up another $75 minimum payment. Now you have $525 attacking the third debt. As you roll through the small debts, your shovel gets bigger and bigger. By the time you reach the massive loans at the bottom of the list, the ones that used to terrify you, you are hitting them with a massive monthly payment. You have built up so much momentum that nothing can stop you. Is this the cheapest way to pay off debt? No. You will pay more in interest because you let the high-interest big loans sit for longer. But is it the most effective way for human beings? Statistics say yes. Research from major universities has shown that people who use the snowball method are more likely to actually become debt-free than those who use the Avalanche, because they don't quit. So now you stand at a crossroads. You have 2 weapons in front of you. On one side, you have the Avalanche, the efficient, logical, mathematical sniper rifle. If you are highly disciplined, not easily discouraged, and motivated by numbers, pick this one. On the other side, you have the snowball, the emotional, momentum-building sledgehammer. If you need to see progress now, if you've had trouble sticking to budgets in the past, or if you just need a win to keep your sanity, pick this one. There is no right answer, but you must pick one. You cannot flip-flop between them. You cannot kinda do both. If you're confused or overwhelmed, choose the snowball. The psychological benefit of closing an account is worth the small cost in extra interest. Here's what I want you to do. Look at your list. Decide right now. Are you sorting by interest rate, which is the Avalanche, or by balance, which is the snowball? Rewrite your list in that order. That is your battle plan. That is the order of operations for the next few years of your life. Commit to it. Because in the next chapter, we're going to talk about a way to cheat the system, a way to lower those interest rates instantly so that whichever method you choose, you get out even faster. Ready for Chapter 6? Chapter 6: Refinancing, the interest rate hack. We've talked about how to organize your debt. We've talked about the psychology of paying it off. Now I want to talk about how to change the math itself. Imagine you are running a race with a backpack full of rocks. The Avalanche and Snowball methods are strategies for how fast you run. But what if I told you there was a way to take some of the rocks out of the backpack before you even start running? That is what refinancing is. It is the closest thing to a cheat code we have in the student loan world. When you took out your loans at 18 or 19 years old, you were a financial ghost. You had no income, no credit history, and no assets. You were a high-risk investment, so the lenders gave you an interest rate that reflected that risk, maybe 7%, 9%, or even 12%. But look at you now. You have a degree, you have a job, you have a credit history. You are statistically much less likely to default than that teenager was. You are a safer bet. Refinancing is simply going to a new lender and saying, hey, I'm a good investment now. Buy my debt from these other guys, give me a lower interest rate, and I'll pay you instead. If you can drop your interest rate from 10% to 5%, you aren't just saving pennies. You are saving thousands of dollars and shaving years off your repayment timeline. But, and listen to me very closely right now, refinancing is not for everyone. In fact, for some of you, it could be a massive mistake. We need to tread carefully here. Consolidation versus refinancing. First, we have to clear up a major confusion. People use the words consolidation and refinancing interchangeably. They are not the same thing. Federal consolidation is a government process. It takes all your different federal loans and squishes them into one big federal loan. It simplifies your life because you have one bill. But, and here's the kicker, it does not lower your interest rate. It takes the weighted average of your existing rates. If you had a 4% loan and an 8% loan, your new consolidated loan is just 6%. You didn't save any money, you just reorganized the paperwork. Private refinancing is totally different. This is when a private company, like SoFi, Earnest, or a local bank, pays off your old loans completely and issues you a new private loan with new terms. If you qualify, this new rate is usually significantly lower than your old average. This is where the savings happen. The danger zone: losing federal protections. Now, here is the warning label. I need you to turn the volume up for this part. If you have federal student loans and you refinance them with a private company, you are permanently stripping those loans of their federal protections. You cannot undo this. Federal loans come with safety nets. They have income-driven repayment plans, meaning if you lose your job, your payment can drop to zero. They have generous deferment options. They have access to forgiveness programs like public service loan forgiveness. When you refinance with a private bank, you lose all of that. The private bank doesn't care if your income drops. They don't care about government forgiveness programs. They just want their money. So who should never refinance federal loans? If you are pursuing public service loan forgiveness, do not refinance. You will disqualify yourself immediately. If you have an unstable job or a shaky income, do not refinance. You need that federal safety net. However, if you have private student loans already, you have nothing to lose. You already don't have those protections. You should be trying to refinance those private loans aggressively, as often as possible, to get that rate down. The ideal candidate. So who should refinance federal loans? Who is the ideal candidate for this strategy? You should consider this hack only if you meet 3 criteria. 1, you have a strong, stable income and an emergency fund.
You're not worried about losing your job next month. 2, you have a high credit score, usually over 700. This is the ticket to unlocking those low rates. And 3, you are gazelle intense about paying this off. You're not looking for forgiveness in 10 years. You're looking to kill this debt in 2 years. If that describes you, refinancing can be a game changer. I've seen people drop their rate from 8% to 3.5%. On a $50,000 balance, that saves over $2,000 in interest in the first year alone. That's $2,000 that stays in your pocket instead of going to the bank. The execution. If you decide to do this, the process is simple. You can go online marketplaces like Credible or NerdWallet or Splash Financial. You enter some basic info without hurting your credit score, and they will show you offers from different lenders. It's like shopping for a flight. You'll see a menu. Lender A offers 4.5% fixed. Lender B offers 4.2% variable. You pick the best rate, submit your documents, and if you're approved, they handle the rest. They wire the money to your old lender, close that account, and you start fresh with the lower rate. And here's a pro tip. You can refinance more than once. If you refinance today to 6%, and next year your credit score goes up and rates go down, you can refinance again to 4%. You should always be hunting for a lower rate. Your assignment. This chapter was heavy on technicals, but the action step is simple. I want you to check your credit score today. Most banking apps give you this for free. If your score is over 700 and you have stable income, I want you to spend 15 minutes browsing a refinancing marketplace. Just look, see what rates are available to you. If you see an offer that cuts your current interest rate by 1.5% or more, do the math. That could be the hack that speeds up your timeline by 6 months. But remember the warning. Once you go private, you can't go back. Make sure you are ready to leave the federal nest before you sign that paper. Speaking of federal programs, there is one massive reason why you might want to keep your federal loans exactly where they are, and that reason is forgiveness. Let's talk about that in the next chapter. Ready for Chapter 7?
Chapter 7. Understanding Federal Forgiveness. If there is one word that sparks more hope, confusion, and controversy in the student loan world than any other, it is forgiveness. You see the headlines, you see the politicians debating it, you get the spam calls promising it, and you probably wonder, is there a way out of this mess where I don't actually have to pay the money back? In this chapter, we're going to cut through the noise. We aren't going to talk about what might happen in Congress next year. We aren't going to talk about hopes and dreams. We're going to talk about the programs that exist right now, in black and white, written into the master promissory note you signed. For some of you, forgiveness is the golden ticket. It is the strategy that makes the most sense. But for others, chasing forgiveness is a trap that will keep you in debt for decades longer than necessary. We need to figure out which camp you belong to. The Golden Ticket, PSLF. Let's start with the crown jewel of federal programs, Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF. If you work in the public sector, this is something you need to understand intimately. Here's the deal. The government says that if you work full-time for a qualifying employer, that means a government organization, federal, state, local, or tribal, or a 501c3 nonprofit, and you make 120 qualifying monthly payments, the remaining balance of your federal loans is forgiven. Tax-free. That sounds amazing, right? It is. But notice the fine print. First, 120 payments. That is 10 years. You can't miss a payment. You can't be late. Second, qualifying employer. You have to stay in the public sector for those 10 years. If you leave your nonprofit job after 9 years to take a higher-paying corporate gig, you get nothing. 0. You don't get partial credit. It is all or nothing. And third, and this is where people mess up, you have to be on a qualifying repayment plan. which usually means an income-driven repayment plan. If you're a teacher, a firefighter, a nurse at a nonprofit hospital, or a social worker, PSLF can save you tens of thousands of dollars. If you owe $100,000, but your income is modest, you might only pay back $30,000 over 10 years before the rest is wiped away. But you have to be meticulous. You need to file your employment certification forms every single year. You need to make sure your loans are direct loans. If you have old FFEL loans, they don't count unless you consolidate them. If you're pursuing PSLF, your goal is the opposite of the gazelle intensity we talked about earlier. Your goal is to pay the least amount possible for 10 years and let the government handle the rest. It's a valid strategy, but it requires perfect paperwork. Income-driven repayment. Now, what if you don't work for a nonprofit? Can you still get forgiveness? Technically, yes, through income-driven repayment. These plans, with names like SAVE, IBR, or PAYE, adjust your monthly bill based on how much money you make, not how much you owe. If you're broke, your payment could be $0. The promise of these plans is that if you stay on them for 20 or 25 years, whatever's left at the end is forgiven. But here's the catch. 25 years is a very, very long time. That's a quarter of a century. Do you really want to be carrying this debt until you're in your late 40s or 50s? Furthermore, there's a danger here called negative amortization. Often, the payment calculated on these plans is so low that it doesn't even cover the interest. So you pay your $100 a month, but your balance grows by $200 a month. You look up in 5 years and you owe more than you borrowed. If you're drowning and can't afford the standard payment, IDR is a lifesaver. It keeps you out of default. But do not view it as a get-out-of-debt-free card. It's a slow, slow burn. And unlike PSLF, the forgiveness at the end of 20 years might be taxed as income, leaving you with a massive IRS bill. Avoiding the scams. Finally, we have to talk about the sharks in the water. Because the rules for forgiveness are complicated, an entire industry of scammers has popped up. You've probably seen the ads on social media. Obama student loan forgiveness. Call now to wipe your debt. Here's the rule of thumb. If a company asks you to pay them money to help you sign up for student loan forgiveness, it's a scam. You never ever have to pay for this. You can apply for IDR or PSLF for free at studentaid.gov. These companies simply take your money, file a form you could have filed yourself, and sometimes they actually make things worse by putting your loans into forbearance without telling you. If anyone promises instant forgiveness, run. The Department of Education does not work instantly. Nothing about this is instant. The decision. So, where does this leave you? If you're a high-income earner in the private sector, forgiveness is probably not for you. The math usually works out better if you just live on rice and beans for 2 years and pay it off. But if you're a public servant, PSLF is a legitimate tool in your arsenal. Here's your action item for this chapter. If you think you qualify for PSLF, I want you to log into the Federal Student Aid website this week and use the PSLF Help tool. Generate your employment certification form, send it to your HR department, get on the record. If you don't qualify for forgiveness, that's okay. Honestly, it's better than okay. It means that you're in control of your own destiny. You don't have to wait 10 years for a bureaucrat to stamp a piece of paper. You can kill this beast yourself. But to do that, you need cash. We've already squeezed your budget. Now we need to find chunks of money, big chunks, to throw at this debt. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about how to handle the unexpected money that falls into your lap. Ready for Chapter 8?
Chapter 8. Weaponizing Windfalls. We often talk about getting out of debt like it's a long, slow march. You budget, you save,
You pay your monthly amount and you repeat it for 36 months. It feels linear. It feels predictable. But if you want to escape fast, you need to look for accelerators. You need to look for the turbo boost buttons that let you skip entire months of payments. We call these accelerators windfalls. A windfall is any money that lands in your lap that isn't part of your regular paycheck. It's the tax refund. It's the Christmas bonus. It's the birthday check from grandma. It's the $20 bill you find in an old winter coat. Most people treat windfalls like free money. They think, oh, look, an extra $1,000 from my tax return. I can finally buy that new TV. I can finally book that weekend trip. They treat it like it's outside this system, like it doesn't count. But you have the mindset of war. To you, a windfall isn't fun money. It is ammunition. In this chapter, we are going to establish a hard rule for how you handle this cash. It is called the found money rule, and it is the secret to cutting your debt timeline in half. The found money rule. Here is the rule. If you didn't budget for it, you don't spend it. If money appears unexpectedly, 100% of it, not 50%, not 80%, but 100% goes directly to the principal of your debt. Let's talk about the biggest windfall most people see every year, the tax refund. The average tax refund in the United States is usually around $3,000. Do you know what $3,000 does to a student loan? It devastates it. If you owe $30,000, that one check knocks out 10% of your total balance in a single day. But it is so hard to do. You've been working hard, you feel like you deserve a treat, you think, I'll just use half of it for debt and keep the other half. Don't do it. Think about it this way. If you were walking down the street and you saw 10 months of your freedom lying on the sidewalk, would you pick it up and trade it for a TV? Because that is what you are doing. When you spend a windfall, you are literally buying more time in debt. When that check hits your bank account, I want you to transfer it to the loan provider within 24 hours. Don't let it sit there. If it sits there, you will find a reason to spend it. The car will need new tires. You will need a new phone. Transfer it immediately. The pain of letting it go will be replaced instantly by the thrill of seeing your balance drop by 4 figures. Manufacturing windfalls. Now, waiting for a tax refund or a bonus is passive. We want to be active. So what if we could manufacture a windfall? What if we could conjure up $500 or $1,000 out of thin air this weekend? You can. It's called selling stuff. Look around the room you are in right now. I guarantee you are surrounded by hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars of inventory. That guitar in the corner you haven't played in 3 years, that's a $200 student loan payment. That designer purse sitting in the back of your closet, that's $150 of freedom. The pile of video games, the old electronics, the furniture that is just taking up space, it's all cash. It's just in the wrong form. We need to convert that clutter into equity. I want you to become a merchant. Use Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Poshmark, or Craigslist. Take a picture, write a description, and list it. I once worked with a guy who was desperate to pay off his last $2,000. He looked at his driveway and saw his second car, a motorcycle he rode maybe 3 times a summer. He loved that bike, but he hated his debt more. He sold the bike on a Saturday morning for $2,500, and by Saturday afternoon, he was debt-free. He didn't just sell a motorcycle, he bought his freedom. The detachment. This process requires detachment. You have to stop loving your stuff more than you love your life. We hold on to things for sentimental reasons or because I might use it someday. But here's the truth. You are in a crisis. If you haven't used it in a year, it needs to go. There is something spiritually cleansing about this too. As you clear out the physical clutter from your home, you are clearing out the financial clutter from your life. You are lightening the load in every sense of the word. And here is the beautiful part. Once you're debt-free, you can buy the stuff back.
You can buy a better guitar, you can buy a better purse, and you can buy it with cash without guilt. The compound effect. When you combine strict budgeting, the surplus hunter, with these massive chunks of cash, the windfalls, magic happens. Your math says you'll be debt-free in 4 years, but then you throw a $2,000 tax refund at it. Then you sell $500 worth of clothes. Then you get a $1,000 work bonus. Suddenly, 4 years becomes 2 years. The interest doesn't have time to accumulate. The balance starts free-falling. This is how people pay off $50,000 on a $60,000 salary. They don't do it with their paycheck alone. They do it by weaponizing every single penny that crosses their path. So, I have a challenge for you. It's time to manufacture your first windfall. I want you to look around your house or your apartment, find one item, just one item that is worth at least $50. Maybe it's a kitchen appliance, a coat, or a gadget. Take a picture of it, list it for sale today. When it sells, take that $50 bill and look at it. That isn't money. That is a soldier. Send it to the front lines. Now, selling your old stuff is great, but eventually you're going to run out of things to sell. You can only sell the couch once. So what do we do when we've cut expenses to the bone and sold everything that isn't nailed down, but we still want to go faster? We have to look at the other side of the equation. We have to increase the size of the shovel. It's time to talk about making more money. Ready for Chapter 9?
Chapter 9. Increasing the shovel, the side hustle. We have spent a lot of time talking about defense. We've cut your budget, we've canceled subscriptions, we've stopped eating out, and we've sold your old guitar. But here is the hard truth about defense. It has a mathematical limit. You can only cut your budget so much. You can't spend less than zero. You have to eat. You have to live somewhere. There is a floor to how much money you can save. But offense? Offense has no ceiling. There is no limit to how much money you can earn. In the debt-free community, we use an analogy called the shovel. Imagine your debt is a massive hole in the ground. You are standing at the bottom of it. To get out, you need to fill the hole with dirt. The dirt is your money. Your current salary is a shovel. If you have a small salary, you have a garden trowel. It's going to take a long time to fill that hole. If you have a huge salary, you have a backhoe. If you want to get out fast, you have two options. You can shrink the hole, which we've been doing, or you can get a bigger shovel. This chapter is about upgrading your shovel. It's about the side hustle. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm already tired. I work 40 hours a week. I don't want to work more. I get it. But remember, we are the gazelle. The cheetah is chasing us. This isn't forever. This is for a season. And an extra $1,000 a month changes the math of your life dramatically. The low-hanging fruit, the gig economy. There are two types of side hustles. The first type is what I call low barrier entry. This is the gig economy. This is Uber, this is DoorDash, this is Instacart, this is walking dogs on Rover or assembling furniture on TaskRabbit. The beauty of these jobs is that you can start tonight. You don't need a portfolio, you don't need to interview. You just download an app, pass a background check, and you are in business. Is it glamorous? No. Will it make you rich? No. But does it pay? Yes. If you are serious about this war, your car is not just a vehicle, it is a revenue-generating asset. Your Saturday mornings are not for sleeping in, they are for delivering groceries. I want you to do the math. If you drove for a rideshare app for just 10 hours a week, that's a Friday night and a Saturday afternoon, and you netted $200, that's $800 a month. Over a year, that is nearly $10,000. Do you have a $10,000 student loan? You could literally drive it out of existence in 12 months without touching your main paycheck. That is the power of the gig economy. It trades your exhaustion for freedom. Now, the second type of hustle is more lucrative, but it takes a little more setup. It involves monetizing your skills. You have a day job. People pay you for a reason. You have a skill. Maybe you write. Maybe you know Excel. Maybe you can design logos. Maybe you speak a second language. There is a marketplace for that. Sites like Upwork, Fiverr, or even just your local community network allow you to sell those skills directly to clients. The difference here is the hourly rate. Driving an Uber might net you $20 an hour. Tutoring a high school kid in math might net you $50 or $60 an hour. Freelance copywriting could be $100 an hour. Don't overcomplicate this. You don't need to launch a business. You don't need a website or a logo. You just need a customer. Ask yourself, what do I know how to do that other people find difficult? Maybe you're great at organizing. People will pay you to organize their garages. Maybe you're a teacher. Parents will pay you to help their kids with SAT prep. This is often called consulting, but let's just call it what it is: hustling. It's taking the brain power you usually give to your employer and renting it out to the highest bidder on the side. Now, there is one rule that you must follow if you start a side hustle. If you break this rule, you are just working yourself to death for no reason. The rule is 100% of side hustle money goes to the debt. This is not pizza money. This is not vacation money. You are not driving strangers around in your car at 11 p.m. so you can afford a nicer pair of shoes. You are working this extra job for one reason: to buy your freedom. You need to segregate this money. When that deposit hits from Uber or Upwork, you don't even let it mix with your grocery money. You transfer it immediately to the student loan. This protects you from lifestyle creep. It is so easy to say, well, I'm making an extra $1,000 a month, so I can afford a better apartment. No, you are broke until the debt is zero. The side hustle is a dedicated weapon for the war. The burnout warning. I have to warn you, you will get tired. Working 60 or 70 hours a week is draining. That is why you need to set a goal. Don't just say, I'll hustle forever. Say, I will hustle until this specific loan is gone, or I'll hustle for 6 months. Give yourself a finish line. You can endure almost anything if you know when it ends. And remember the trade-off. You are trading your leisure time now for your freedom later. You are sacrificing Netflix tonight so you don't have to sacrifice your retirement later. Your assignment. So let's get practical. I want you to brainstorm right now. Think of 3 skills you have. Can you write? Can you code? Can you clean? Can you drive? Can you fix things? Write them down. Now pick one. Just one. Your challenge is to test it this weekend. Sign up for the app, post a status on Facebook offering your services, tell your friends you're looking for freelance work. Don't wait for the perfect business plan. Action beats planning every time. Go get a bigger shovel. But what if you can't work more hours? What if the best way to get more money isn't a second job, but a better first job? Let's talk about the most powerful wealth-building tool in your arsenal: your career. Ready for Chapter 10?
Chapter 10: Career Levers, the Raise and the Switch. In the last chapter, we talked about driving Ubers and walking dogs. And while those side hustles are fantastic for generating quick cash, we have to be realistic. There is a limit to how many groceries you can deliver in a week. You only have so many hours. But there is one income stream you have that likely has tens of thousands of dollars of potential just waiting to be unlocked. It's the place you spend 40 hours a week. It's your day job. Most people approach their salary with a passive mindset. They accept the offer letter, they show up, they do the work, and they wait for the standard 2% cost of living adjustment at the end of the year. If you are in debt, you cannot afford to be passive about your primary income. You need to view your career not just as a job, but as a business.
You are the CEO of You Inc., and your employer is your biggest client. If that client isn't paying you market rate, it's time to renegotiate the contract. We are going to talk about the two biggest levers you can pull to increase your income, the raise and the switch. The art of the ask. Let's start with the raise. Here is the biggest mistake people make when asking for more money. They make it about their needs. They walk into the boss's office and say, "I need a raise because rent is going up," or "I need a raise because I have student loans." I'm going to be harsh. Your boss does not care about your student loans. The company exists to make a profit, not to solve your personal financial problems. If you want to raise, you have to make it about value. You have to prove that you are worth more to the company today than you were when they hired you. You need to become a detective. Before you schedule that meeting, you need data. What is the market rate for your position? Look at sites like Glassdoor or Salary.com. If you are being paid $50,000 and the market rate is $65,000, you have leverage. Next, you need a brag sheet. Write down everything you have achieved in the last year. Did you save the company money? Did you bring in a new client? Did you streamline a process that saves time? Quantify it. Put a dollar sign next to your contributions. When you walk into that meeting, you aren't begging. You are presenting a business case. You say, "In the last year, I've delivered X results, which added Y value to the team. Based on this performance and the current market rate, I'd like to discuss adjusting my salary to insert number." This is scary. Your heart will beat fast, but the worst they can say is no. And if they say yes, that could be an extra $5,000 or $10,000 a year. That is a massive shovel for your debt hole. Now, what if they say no? Or what if the raise is tiny? Then it is time to look at the second lever, the switch. There is a concept in the modern economy called the loyalty tax. Data consistently shows that employees who stay at the same company for more than 2 years get paid significantly less over their lifetime than those who switch jobs. Why? Because annual raises are usually capped at 3 or 4%. But when you move to a new company, you are negotiating from scratch. You can often command a 15, 20, or even 30% jump in salary just by crossing the street to a competitor. If you've been at your job for 3 years and your salary has barely moved, you are likely underpaid. You're paying a tax for your comfort. I want you to update your LinkedIn profile. I want you to take a recruiter's call. I want you to interview. Even if you don't want to leave, getting an offer letter from another company is the ultimate leverage. Imagine you get an offer for $15,000 more than you make now. If you take that job, and this is the critical part, you don't change your lifestyle. You can put that entire $15,000 toward your debt. After taxes, that's roughly $1,000 a month of pure principal payments. That isn't a side hustle. That isn't working nights and weekends. That is simply being paid what you are worth. Now, we have to discuss the trap. The reason most high-income earners are still broke is a phenomenon called the lifestyle creep, or Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law states that expenses will rise to meet income. You get a $10,000 raise, you feel rich. So you move to a slightly nicer apartment. You lease a slightly nicer car. You start buying the organic produce and the expensive wine. By the end of the year, that extra $10,000 is gone, and you haven't paid an extra dime toward your loans. If you use these career levers, you must make a pact with yourself. The pact is this: my lifestyle is frozen. If you make $50,000 and you get a raise to $60,000, you must continue to live exactly as if you make $50,000. You are still broke. You are still in debt. You have to intercept that new money before it hits your checking account. Set up an automatic transfer. As soon as the bigger paycheck lands, the difference is swept away to the loan servicer. This requires discipline. It is hard to watch your peers upgrade their lives while you stay stagnant. But remember, they are upgrading their payments, you are upgrading your net worth. Your assignment. We have to get moving on this. Inflation is eating your paycheck, and interest is eating your future. You need to advocate for yourself. Here is your assignment. If you have not had a significant raise, more than just a cost of living bump, in 18 months, I want you to draft an email to your manager today. You don't have to ask for the money in the email, just ask for the meeting. Subject line, performance review/career trajectory. Body, hi, manager name. I'd love to schedule 15 minutes to discuss my performance over the last year and my future with the team. When do you have time this week? Send it. That email is the first step to a bigger shovel. Now, we've talked about offense, side hustles, and career levers, but we have to circle back to defense one more time, because there is a level of budgeting that goes beyond cutting Netflix. There's a level of budgeting reserved for the truly desperate and the truly determined. It's time to talk about rice and beans. Ready for Chapter 11?
Chapter 11. Living on Rice and Beans. In the personal financial world, there is a cliché you'll hear over and over again. It's a phrase made famous by Dave Ramsey, and it goes like this. If you want to get out of debt, you need to live on rice and beans, beans and rice. It's a metaphor for extreme frugality. It means stripping your lifestyle down to the absolute bare essentials. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I don't want to eat rice and beans. I work hard. I want to eat sushi. I want to eat steak. And I agree with you. You should eat steak. You should enjoy fine dining. But not yet. This chapter is about the concept of temporary sacrifices for permanent gains. It's about accepting that for a short, intense season of your life, you are going to eat like a college student, so that you can eventually live like a wealthy retiree. We are going to attack the one area of your budget where money bleeds out the fastest: food and entertainment. Let's look at your grocery bill. For most people, food is the second or third biggest expense after housing. And unlike your rent, which is fixed, your food bill is completely variable. You can spend $1,000 a month on food, or you can spend $200. The difference is $800 of debt repayment. I want to challenge you to try meal planning for under $5 per day. I'm serious. $5. How do you do that? You have to stop looking at food as entertainment and start looking at it as fuel. You buy in bulk. You buy generic brands. You embrace the crock pot. And yes, you eat rice, beans, lentils, eggs, and frozen vegetables. This isn't glamorous. Posting a picture of your Tupperware container with chicken and broccoli on Instagram isn't going to get a lot of likes. But do you know what isn't glamorous? Being 40 years old and still paying for a degree you got when you were 22. If you can cut your food spending from $600 to $200 for just 6 months, that is $2,400. That's a semester of tuition paid off just by changing what you put in the microwave. This requires planning. You can't just wander into the grocery store hungry. You need a list, and you need to stick to the perimeter of the store, where the real food is, avoiding the expensive processed stuff in the middle. The no-spend challenge. If the diet sounds hard, let's ramp it up a notch. I want to introduce you to the no-spend month. This is a challenge where for 30 days, you spend exactly $0 on anything that isn't a fixed bill or basic groceries. No clothes, no Amazon, no coffee shops, no happy hours, no movie tickets, no haircuts. You pay your rent, your utilities, your car insurance, and you buy basic food. That's it. Why would anyone do this? 2 reasons. First, it saves a ton of money quickly. It's like a financial detox.
Second, and more importantly, it resets your hedonic treadmill. We get used to spending money. We get used to the dopamine hit of buying things. When you go cold turkey for 30 days, you break that addiction. You realize that you can actually survive and even be happy without swiping your card every day. You learn to be resourceful. You run out of toothpaste, you squeeze the tube until it's flat. You run out of entertainment, you read a book you already own or go for a walk. It forces you to use what you have. It forces you to be creative. And when the month is over, you don't go back to your old spending habits because you've realized you didn't actually need all that stuff to begin with. Now, the biggest objection to this lifestyle is always the social aspect. But my friends want to go out. I don't want to be a hermit. I get it. Peer pressure is real. But you have to stop equating spending money with hanging out. You can have a social life without a bill. Instead of meeting for drinks at a bar where a cocktail is $15, invite friends over for a game night. Tell them to bring their own drinks. Instead of going to brunch, meet for a hike or a walk in the park. Instead of going to the movies, host a movie night at home with popcorn. And here is the key. You have to be honest with your friends. Don't make up excuses. Don't say, I'm busy. Look them in the eye and say, hey guys, I'm on a serious mission to kill my student loans this year, so I'm on a super strict budget. I can't do the fancy dinner, but I'd love to hang out. Can we do something free instead? If they are real friends, they will support you. They might even be relieved because they're probably broke too and just pretending not to be. If they make fun of you or pressure you to spend money you don't have, they aren't your friends. They are expensive acquaintances. And right now, you can't afford them. I want you to remember again, this is a season. I am not asking you to eat rice and beans for the rest of your life. I am asking you to do it until the debt is gone. Every time you say no to a steak dinner now, you are buying your freedom to eat steak whenever you want later. Every time you skip a concert now, you are buying financial peace. It is a trade, and it is a trade you will never regret making. So, are you ready to test your discipline? Here is your challenge. I want you to do a no-spend day tomorrow. From the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, you will spend $0 on anything. You will bring your lunch to work. You will make your coffee at home. You will not stop for gas. Do it today if you need to. You will not buy a pack of gum. Just 24 hours. Prove to yourself that you have control over your wallet. If you can do one day, you can do a week. If you can do a week, you can do a month. And if you can do a month, you can get out of debt. But beware, when you live like this for a while, you start to get tired. The novelty wears off. The adrenaline fades. And that is when the burnout sets in. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about how to keep going when you hit the middle slog. Ready for Chapter 12?
Chapter 12, The Middle Slog, Dealing with Burnout. We need to have a serious conversation about the most dangerous part of this journey. It isn't the beginning. The beginning is actually kind of exciting. You have a plan, you're motivated, you have that new year, new me energy. You're slashing budgets and selling stuff and feeling like a warrior. And it isn't the end. The end is adrenaline-fueled. You can see the finish line. You can smell the victory. You're sprinting. No, the dangerous part is the middle. We call it the middle slog. It's that point where the novelty has worn off, but the finish line is still miles away. You've been eating rice and beans for 6 months. You've been saying no to your friends for a year. You're working the side hustle, you're tired, and you look at your balance and it still says $30,000. This is where frugal fatigue sets in. This is where the voice in your head starts whispering, maybe I should just quit. Maybe I should just pay the minimums and enjoy my life. Everyone else has debt. Why am I making myself miserable? If you were going to fail, statistically, you will fail here. So in this chapter, we are going to talk about how to survive the desert. We're going to talk about how to keep your head up when the excitement is gone. Recognizing frugal fatigue. Frugal fatigue usually starts with resentment. You start getting annoyed at people who are spending money. You see a friend post a picture of a vacation in Italy, and instead of being happy for them, you feel angry. You think, must be nice. You start feeling deprived. You start feeling like a martyr. When you feel this happening, stop. Do not ignore it. If you try to just push through with willpower alone, you will eventually snap. And when you snap financially, it looks like a binge. You'll go out and blow $500 on clothes or a weekend trip just to feel something, and then you'll feel massive guilt, which leads to more spending. We need to treat this fatigue before it becomes a relapse. The power of mini milestones. The best cure for the middle slog is to stop looking at the finish line. It's too far away. If you're running a marathon and you're at mile 10, thinking about mile 26 is demoralizing. You need to think about mile 11. You need to break your giant, scary debt number down into bite-sized milestones. Don't celebrate only when you hit 0. That's too long to wait for a dopamine hit. Celebrate every $1,000. Celebrate every time you drop into a new decade, like going from 30,000 to 29,000. And here is the key. You need rewards. Now, I know I told you not to spend money, but a reward doesn't have to be expensive to be effective. It just has to be acknowledged. Set a rule. When I pay off this specific credit card, I'm going to buy a nice bottle of wine. Or, when I get my student loan balance under $20,000, I'm going to take a Saturday off from the side hustle and just play video games all day. These mini celebrations act like water stations in the marathon. They give you a moment to breathe, look back at how far you've come, and say, okay, I'm making progress. Tracking net worth, not just debt. Another psychological trick to get through the slog is to change the scoreboard. Up until now, you've been obsessed with your debt number. You want it to go down. But staring at a negative number all day is depressing. Start tracking your net worth. Your net worth is simple. It's what you own minus what you owe. Even if it's a negative number right now, watching that number climb toward positive territory is incredibly motivating. Maybe you paid off $500 of debt, but you also put $200 in your 401k at work. Your debt only went down by $500, but your net worth went up by $700. You are building wealth while you are in the hole. Seeing that upward trend helps remind you that you're not just fixing a mistake from the past, you are building a foundation for the future. And finally, when the fog of the middle slog gets thick, you have to go back to your why. I want you to vividly imagine the day you make the final payment. I want you to script it out. Where will you be? Will you be at your desk at work? Will you be sitting on your couch? Who will be with you? Imagine logging in. Imagine typing in the final amount. Imagine clicking Submit. And then imagine what you do 5 minutes later. Do you cry? Do you scream? Do you call your mom? Do you run outside? Keep that movie playing in your head. That moment is real. It is waiting for you in the future. Every payment you make, no matter how tired you are, brings that moment one day closer to the present. The accountability lifeline. You cannot do this alone. Isolation is the best friend of failure. When you're in the slog, you need a cheerleader. You need someone who knows what you're doing, not someone who will tell you to live a little, but someone who will tell you to keep going. So here is your action item for this chapter. It's a simple one, but it's powerful. I want you to pick up your phone right now. I want you to text a friend, a partner, or a family member, someone you trust. Text them this: "Hey, I'm feeling a little burned out on my debt payoff plan today. Can you just remind me why I'm doing this?" That's it. Let them encourage you. Let them carry the burden for a few minutes. You'd be amazed at how much a simple, "I'm proud of you" text can recharge your batteries. You are going to make it through the middle. You are going to get to the end. But for some of you, the problem isn't just burnout. The problem is that the people you owe money to are playing dirty. It's private lenders who won't work with you. In the next chapter, we're going to put on our armor and deal with the private loan sharks. Ready for Chapter 13?
Chapter 13. Dealing with Private Lenders. If federal loans are a heavy backpack, private loans are a ball and chain. We've spent a lot of time talking about government programs, forgiveness, and income-driven plans. But for many of you, those words mean nothing because your debt is held by a private company. You owe money to a bank, a credit union, or a massive corporation like Navient, Sallie Mae, or Discover. And here is the harsh reality. Private lenders do not care about your feelings. They do not care if you lost your job. They do not care if your rent went up. They have shareholders to report to, and you are a line item on their revenue sheet. They are less flexible, less forgiving, and often more aggressive than the federal government. But that does not mean you are powerless. In fact, thinking you are powerless is exactly what they want. They want you to be scared, so you'll do whatever they say. In this chapter, we are going to learn how to negotiate with the sharks. We are going to learn how to handle private lenders when the money just isn't there. First, you need to understand their motivation. A private lender is a business. Their goal is profit. When you stop paying them, you become a problem. If you default completely, meaning you stop paying forever, they lose a lot of money. They have to pay lawyers to sue you, they have to sell your debt to collectors for pennies on the dollar, and they look bad to their investors. They want you to pay. And believe it or not, they would rather get some money from you than no money from you. This is your leverage. If you're drowning and literally cannot make the minimum payment, you cannot just stop paying. That is the nuclear option, and it will destroy your credit score for years. Instead, you have to communicate. You have to be proactive. Negotiating payment terms. Here's a script for what happens when you can't pay. You call the customer service number. You do not ask the first person who picks up for help. They are usually a script reader with no power. You ask to speak to their hardship department or loan modification specialist. When you get that person on the line, you say, "I want to pay my loan. I intend to pay this back, but right now, due to insert reason, job loss, medical emergency, I physically cannot make the full payment. If we don't work something out, I'm going to default. I don't want that, and you don't want that. What options do you have for a temporary rate reduction or an interest-only payment plan?" Notice what you did there. You threatened default without being aggressive. You stated your intention to pay. You put the ball in their court. Many private lenders have unadvertised programs. They might let you make interest-only payments for 6 months. They might lower your interest rate temporarily. They won't tell you these exist unless you push them. Be polite, but be persistent. If they say no, hang up and call back. Get a different representative. Keep notes of every call, who you spoke to, the time, and what they said. Forbearance versus deferment. Now, they will likely offer you two things, deferment or forbearance. You need to know the difference because one is a safety net and the other is a trap. Deferment is usually better. In some cases, if you go back to school or join the military, you can defer payments. Sometimes, though rarely with private loans, the interest might pause. Forbearance is the most common offer. This simply means they let you stop making payments for a few months. usually 3 to 12 months. Here is the catch. During forbearance, the interest keeps running. And usually at the end of the forbearance period, all that unpaid interest gets capitalized. That means it gets added to your principal balance, and then you start paying interest on the interest. Forbearance is a Band-Aid. It stops the bleeding today, but it makes the wound deeper tomorrow. You should only use forbearance in a true emergency. If you lost your job and had $0 coming in, take the forbearance. But the second you have income again, get off forbearance and start paying. Do not use the full 12 months just because they gave it to you. Handling aggressive collectors. What if you're already behind? What if your phone is ringing 5 times a day with unknown number? This is where things get ugly. Debt collectors use fear as a weapon. They will threaten to garnish your wages, which they usually can't do without a lawsuit. They will threaten to call your boss. They will try to shame you. You need to know your rights. In the United States, there is a law called the FDCPA. They cannot call you before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. They cannot harass you or use abusive language. And if you tell them in writing to stop calling you and only contact you by mail, they must stop calling you. If a collector is crossing the line, tell them, I know my rights under the FDCPA. You are violating them. I am recording this call. Watch how fast their tone changes. But more importantly, do not let them bully you into making a promise you can't keep. They will say, can you pay $500 today? If you only have $50 for food, do not say yes. Do not give them access to your bank account. Send them a check or make a payment online manually. Never give a collector auto-draft access. The bottom line, dealing with private lenders is stressful. It's a high-stakes poker game, but you have to stay at the table. The worst thing you can do, the absolute worst thing, is ghost them. If you stop answering the phone, stop opening the mail, and disappear, they will sue you, and they will win, and then they will take the money from your paycheck before you even see it. So here is your hard assignment for today. If you are behind on a private loan, or if you know you won't be able to make next month's payment, you have to pick up the phone. I know your stomach is turning just thinking about it. I know you want to throw up. Do it anyway. Call them. Tell them the truth. Ask for the hardship department. Make a plan. Once you face that fear, the monster gets smaller. You regain control. And once you get that situation stabilized, you can get back to the mission, killing the debt. We are nearing the end of the journey now. You fought the war, you've dealt with the lenders, you've hustled. Now you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's time for the final sprint. Ready for Chapter 14?
Chapter 14, The Final Sprint. Runners know something about the last lap of a race. It's called the kick. You've been pacing yourself for miles. Your lungs are burning, your legs feel like lead, and your mind is telling you to stop. But then you see the finish line, and something chemical happens in your brain. You don't slow down, you speed up. You find a reserve of energy you didn't know you had. You stop thinking about the pain and start thinking about the victory. You are now in the final sprint of your debt journey. We are talking about the last 10% or 15% of your balance. If you started with $50,000, maybe you're down to your last $5,000 or $7,000. This is a dangerous time, but not because of burnout. It's dangerous because you might get complacent. You might think, oh, it's manageable now. I can relax. No, you do not relax. You sprint. You run through the tape. The Emergency Fund Gambit. In this final phase, there is a strategic move that terrifies people but often makes the most sense. It's the decision to raid the emergency fund. Throughout this entire book, I would have told you to keep a small emergency fund, maybe $1,000 or $2,000, so you don't have to use a credit card if your car breaks down.
But let's look at a specific scenario. Let's say you have $4,000 left on your student loan, and let's say you have $6,000 sitting in your savings account. Technically, you are debt-free right now. You just haven't admitted it yet. You are paying interest on that $4,000 loan every day, while your $6,000 savings is earning pennies. The question is, should you take the money out of savings and kill the loan today? The answer is usually yes. Here is the logic. If you pay off the $4,000, you are left with $2,000 in the bank. That is still a small emergency fund. It's tight, yes, but think about your cash flow. Without that student loan payment every month, you can rebuild your savings incredibly fast. If your loan payment was $400 a month and you were paying an extra $400, that's $800 a month you now have to put back into savings. You will replenish that fund in no time. Now, be smart. If you think you might get laid off next week or you know your car is about to die, keep the cash. But if your life is relatively stable, why keep the debt around as a pet? Why pay one more day of interest? Write the check, feel the fear, and do it anyway. The last check. Let's talk about the moment itself, the moment you make the final payment. This isn't just a transaction. It is a ritual. I want you to be present for it. Don't just let an autopay handle the last $100. Turn off autopay for the final month. You need to click the button yourself. I want you to log in. I want you to see that current balance. I want you to type in the exact amount to the penny. When you click Submit, realize what you are doing. You are breaking a chain. You are altering the trajectory of your financial life. You are closing a chapter that has caused you stress, anxiety, and tears. Take a screenshot of the confirmation page. Seriously, print it out. Frame it. It is a diploma in resilience. You might feel a physical sensation. People report feeling lighter. They report laughing hysterically. They report crying. Let it happen. You have been carrying a heavy weight for a long time, and you just set it down. The "what now" void. But I have to warn you about something strange that happens about 48 hours after the celebration. It's the "what now" feeling. You have spent years defining yourself by this war. You were the person paying off debt. Every decision, every extra dollar, every thought was directed at this enemy. Now the enemy is dead, and suddenly there is a silence, there is a void. You might feel a weird sense of aimlessness. What do I do with my money now? What do I do with my mental energy? This is normal. It's an identity shift. You are moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. You are moving from survive to thrive. You have to give yourself permission to shift gears. You have to learn how to dream again. When you were in debt, your dreams were small. I wish I could afford a new pair of shoes. I wish I didn't panic when the check engine light came on. Now, you can dream big. I want to buy a house. I want to retire early. I want to travel the world. The skills you built during this war, the discipline, the budgeting, the hustle, those don't go away. You are going to use them for something much more fun than student loans. The date. We are almost done with this book, but you aren't done with your journey yet. You need a target. Here is your call to action. I want you to calculate the exact date you will be debt-free. Look at your current balance. Look at how much you are paying per month. Do the division. Is it 14 months from now? Is it November 12th, 2026? Find the date. Write it down. I want you to take a dry erase marker and write that date on your bathroom mirror. Every morning when you brush your teeth, I want you to look at that date. That isn't just a date on the calendar. That is your Independence Day. That is the day the real you begins. Run towards that date. Sprint towards it. But once you cross that line, you face a new risk. The risk of sliding back. The risk of thinking, I'm debt-free, so I can borrow again. In the next chapter, we're going to build a firewall around your freedom to make sure you never ever have to listen to a book like this again. Ready for Chapter 15?
Chapter 16.
Wealth building, the pivot. So here we are. You have reached the summit. The debt is gone, the emergency fund is full. You are standing on solid ground for the first time in your adult life. But I have a surprise for you. Zero is not the destination. Zero is just the starting line. For the last few years, you have been digging yourself out of a deep hole. All your effort, all your sweat, all your side hustles were just to get back to level ground. Now, the game changes completely. This is the pivot. The pivot is the moment you switch from playing defense to offense. It is the moment you stop working for your money and start making your money work for you. You see, getting out of debt is not about becoming debt-free. It is about freeing up your income so you can become wealthy. Let's talk about the logistics of this pivot. For years, you have been conditioned to live without a huge chunk of your paycheck. Let's say you were sending $800 a month to your student loans. You learned to pay your rent, buy your groceries, and live your life without that $800. The biggest mistake people make right now is they absorb that $800 back into their lifestyle. They start eating out a little more, they buy a slightly better car, and poof, the money vanishes. Do not let that happen. You need to execute the great redirection. I want you to take that exact same $800, the money that you're already used to not having, and instead of sending it to Navient or the Department of Education, I want you to set up an automatic transfer to an investment account. Open a Roth IRA. Open a brokerage account. Log into your 401k at work. Set the transfer for the exact same day your loan payment used to go out. If you do this, you won't feel a pinch. Your lifestyle doesn't change, but your future changes instantly. You are taking a debt payment and turning it into a wealth payment. The eighth wonder of the world. Why is this so important? Because of a little thing called compound interest. When you were in debt, compound interest was your enemy. It was the wind in your face pushing you backwards. Every day the bank was earning money off your back. Now you are turning the wind around. Now the wind is at your back. Let's run the numbers. If you take that $800 a month, the money that used to be a burden, and you invest it in a good S&P 500 index fund that averages 10% a year, in 10 years, that's not just the $96,000 you put in, it grows to over $160,000. In 20 years, it's nearly $600,000. In 30 years, that monthly student loan payment has turned into over $1.6 million. Listen to me. That is the same $800 that was making you broke. Now it is making you a millionaire. This is the power of the pivot. You aren't finding new money. You are just changing the destination of the money you already have. You are firing the banker and hiring yourself. Catching up. Now, I know some of you are listening to this and feeling a pang of regret. You're thinking, but I'm 35 or I'm 45. I spent my 20s and 30s paying off this debt. I'm behind on retirement. I missed the boat. Stop that. You did not miss the boat. You were fixing the boat. And now that the leaks are plugged, this boat can fly. Because you have no debt payments, your ability to catch up is massive. The average person is trying to save for retirement while juggling a car note, a student loan, and a credit card bill. They can only squeeze out 3% or 5% of their income. You can invest 20%, 30%, or 50% of your income. You can compress decades of saving into a few years of intense focus. I want you to look at your workplace retirement plan. Are you getting the match? If not, start today. That's free money. Are you maxing out your Roth IRA? Do it. You are not behind. You are just starting a different race. And in this race, you are lighter, faster, and more disciplined than the people who have been casually investing while carrying debt for 20 years. The new identity. This is where the fun begins. Investing isn't a chore like paying debt. It's addictive. Watching your net worth grow from $0 to $10,000 to $100,000 is the most exciting video game you will ever play. You are no longer a borrower. You are an investor. You are a capital allocator. Hold your head high. You broke the cycle. Your children won't have to deal with this because you are going to teach them differently. You are going to leave them an inheritance, not a burden. We have covered the mindset, the math, the hustle, and the future. You have the entire roadmap. Now, we need to bring it all home. We need to wrap this up and send you out into the world to execute. You're almost at the end. Get ready for the final roadmap in the conclusion.
Conclusion. The execution. We have arrived. Over the last few hours, we have walked a long road together. We started in the darkness of denial, terrified to look at the numbers. We turned on the lights. We built a dashboard. We picked up weapons, the Avalanche, the Snowball, the side hustle. We learned how to negotiate with sharks, how to starve our distractions, and how to redirect our financial future. You now possess something that 90% of the population does not have: a plan. Most people wander through their financial lives. They drift. They accept debt as a normal part of the scenery. They complain about the system. They wait for politicians to save them, and they hope that somehow, magically, it will all work out in the end. But hope is not a strategy. You know that now. You know that the only thing that moves the needle is math combined with aggressive, relentless behavior. But before I let you go, I have to give you one final warning. This audiobook is dangerous. It is dangerous because it gives you the illusion of progress. Right now, you feel good. You feel motivated. You feel smarter than you did when you hit play on the introduction. Your brain is releasing dopamine because you learned something. But learning is not doing. You can memorize every chapter of this book. You can recite the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans. You can explain the psychology of the debt snowball to your friends at a dinner party. But if you do not actually log into your bank account and move money, nothing changes. The interest does not care what you know. It only cares what you pay. There is a gap between where you are right now and where you want to be. That gap is not filled with information. You have the information. That gap is filled with execution. The hardest part of this entire journey is not the middle. It's not the end. It is the next 10 minutes. When this audio ends, silence will return to your car or your headphones. And in that silence, you have a choice. You can switch to a music playlist, drive home, and go back to your normal routine. You can say, "That was a good book. I'll start on Monday." If you do that, you have lost. Monday is a mythical place where dreams go to die. Or you can take immediate, imperfect action. You can pull over. You can log in. You can make a payment, even if it's just $20, even if it's just listing one old video game on eBay. Action creates traction. You need to break the inertia of your old life right now. The ripple effect. I want you to think about what is really at stake here. We talked a lot about numbers, dollars, percentages, months, but let's zoom out. This isn't just about your bank balance. This is about your legacy. If you have children or if you plan to have children, they're watching you. They don't listen to what you say about money. They watch what you do with money. If you stay in debt, you teach them that debt is normal. You teach them that stress is normal. You pass the baton of burden to the next generation. But if you break free, if you become the person who pays cash, if you become the person who builds wealth, you change your family tree forever. You change the starting line for your grandkids. Imagine a future where your child gets accepted to their dream university, and instead of having a panic attack about the tuition, you smile. You write a check, and you look at them and say, "Go learn, go grow, and don't worry about the money. I took care of it a long time ago." That is the power you hold in your hands. That is the freedom we are fighting for. The new you. You're going to face resistance. Your friends will make fun of your budget. Your family might not understand why you won't come on the expensive vacation. The marketing machine of the world will try to seduce you into spending money you don't have. Let them talk. You're playing a different game. You are playing the long game. When they're stressed about payments, you will be at peace. When they're working jobs they hate because they have to, you will work because you want to. When they're wondering if they can ever retire, you will be traveling the world. You have the roadmap. You have the tools. You have the mindset. The only variable left is you. Do not let this moment pass. Do not let the fire fade. You are not a loan number. You are not a credit score. You are the architect of your own life. It is time to stop imagining the escape and time to start digging the tunnel. Go make your first extra payment right now. And if this plan has helped you, share this audiobook with a friend who needs to escape the trap. You are free to move.
Thank you for investing your time in the Student Loan Escape Plan. If this series sparked a fire in you, I need you to do 2 things right now to keep that momentum going. First, if you are listening on a platform that allows comments, I want you to be bold. I want you to type your debt-free date in the comment section below. Put it out into the universe. When you write it down and share it publicly, it becomes real. I read the comments and I want to cheer you on. Second, make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button. We're going to be releasing more deep dives on investing, building credit, and specific interviews with people who have successfully executed this plan. You don't want to miss the wealth building phase that comes next. Also, if you need the templates we talked about, the debt dashboard, the burn rate calculator, or the budget sheet, check the description or the show notes right now. There is a link to download the entire toolkit for free. No excuses. Get the tools and get to work. Disclaimer. Please remember that I am an educator, not your specific financial advisor. The strategies shared in this audio experience are for educational and informational purposes only. Everyone's financial situation is unique. Before making significant changes to your tax strategy, investment portfolio, or legal agreements with lenders, you should consult with a certified financial planner, tax professional, or attorney who understands your specific local laws and personal circumstances. You have the knowledge. Now, go execute the plan. I'll see you in the next video.